it's sitting with the uncomfortable moments. It's sitting in those stillness and the silence, and it's doing that inner work, and it's, when I went to Costa Rica, that was a lot of things that I experienced out there is that ecstatic breath work, that ecstatic dance, we did a lot of deep-rooted exercises that faced our shadows and really making peace with those beautiful aspects of ourselves instead of, burying those aspects or making peace with those aspects. And so after I came back from Costa Rica, I knew that that was the whole thing that I wanted to bring. I wanted to help, what had happened to me and, um, and what I experienced through the healing of those little elements of yoga. I wanted to bring that and I wanted to share that with people.
Welcome back to another episode of A Measure of Passion. Today I'm joined with one of my community business owners, and she has a business in something I love, which is yoga. And so I want to welcome Sara to the podcast. And Sara is from, I want to make sure I get this right, Flower of Life Yoga and Wellness Center in St. Charles. And so welcome, Sara, to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited. I have to say, I'm always really excited when I get a young person, especially a young woman who has started her own business. And so I want to dive into that right away. Do you mind sharing your journey as to how you got here and when you started your yoga and wellness center?
Yes. So I actually started doing yoga in my early teens. The first time I started doing yoga, I kind of dabbled into it when I was in high school. And that was just out of a gym. So I went to a gym. Long story short, I was hooked. Of course, physical benefits, but then I started noticing it was doing a lot more to my mind. And so after that, I was working a lot. I was doing full-time jobs and, it was time for me to find a yoga studio. So I found a yoga studio and I actually worked out of that yoga studio and cleaned that space for free yoga. And I just kind of knew, like, right off the bat, I'm like, this is going to lead me somewhere. And then I was kind of researching a little bit while I was at my full-time job. As I was researching, I just kind of wanted to dabble in to see, what I wanted to do outside of that, because I knew that working behind a desk was for me. So I wanted to teach yoga, and so I found a really breathtaking place in Costa Rica, and right off the bat, I just knew that was the place for me. So I saved my money. I took that trip and received my teacher training. So after I did that, yeah, and there we did a lot of the deep rooted spiritual, a lot of exercises that I wanted to take there and bring to my home studio. And after that, I don't know, it's just something that I kept coming back to, and I teach, and I got a lot of practice and education at that home studio that I was working at. And from there, I just decided it was time to spread my wings after about 7 years. So
Absolutely. There's so much to unpack there. And I want to learn about everything. So I'm curious, as a teenager, when you were starting and dabbling in yoga, I think it's rare that a high school student at that age, there's so much going on, right? With what your future is going to bring and just everything, getting ready to graduate and things like that. You must have been a very special high school student. What did you find were the benefits that you started teasing out at such an early age?
well, I went in for the physical benefits, of course. I kind of went in with it with an ego, like I got this. I got the physical benefits and all that, as an exercise, and then I started noticing that it was doing a lot more to my mind after. People were holding poses for a long time. I'm like, how are people holding these poses for so long, in this hot room? And it was just something that I kept coming back to. And I think it was just because I was going through a difficult time in my life as well, that I was just hooked. I needed something. That helped challenge me and also support me in that space that
And
I
I
was
will
at.
tell you, as an aside, so I started out my career as a social worker. I was a therapist for many, many years, and I worked with adolescents was my favorite age. And now I moved away from that, and I run a business for a medical practice. And one of the things that I'm seeing as a trend is that the younger employees that we hire, they all seem to come and talk to me because I'm also wear the HR hat. They come and talk to me about their anxiety level and how they are feeling unsuccessful at managing their life because their anxiety is so much on a roller coaster. And I hate to I mean, I don't hate to refer it, but in my job situation, I'm always trying to be mindful of the fact that not everybody understands meditation and mindfulness and yoga to the level that I do. But yet I always feel like I go back there. And, can you shed some light on that and either, encourage me to do that or not encourage me to do that? Because I sort of feel like that would help these young people. So they're in their early 20s, anywhere from, I'd say one of them is probably 23. The other one I'm thinking of is probably in her early 30s. And they're both struggling with anxiety and are on medication for anxiety now. And excuse me, I think that yoga and meditation could be really helpful for them. Could you maybe help me through understanding what I could say to them?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say just try it, and the most important thing I would say is just pause and take a deep breath. Your breathing is such a powerful tool, just to calm your nervous system, and it is extremely helpful for people with anxiety and depression, and just having a space for you away from the chaos because there's just so much going on. You're so distracted now, whether it's with school, your phones. I mean, we're in a world now with so much technology where that itself, it's kind of causes a separation, And I would say just meditation and breathing, having a seat, taking deep breaths, and um, closing your eyes and allowing yourself to ground down in that space of stillness and silence is super
Yeah.
important. Even if it's from 5 minutes a day.
And you had told me before we went on screen that you had really, worked a lot in the physical fitness side, and you found yourself falling out in love with yoga or it coming back to you over and over again. And so I'm curious about that because a lot of people, especially in our society, really promote physical fitness, right? And there's a lot of recent research and things done on longevity and physical fitness, and now I think that is being sort of evolving into mental health and mindfulness and things like that. So I'm curious, at such a young age, how were you ahead of the curve to bring it back to something like yoga and wellness? I mean, I really want to learn that because I want to promote your center, and I want people to know that there is the benefits of converging both physical and sort of mindfulness and wellness, but also how did you arrive at that conclusion so early in your life? Because to me, I mean, I'm getting to my late 50s and I'm feeling like, how does a person so young in their life stumble across this in such a way that is going to make such a significant difference for their life? And how do we learn from your life so that we can, escalate that learning because we don't have that much time left. You have a lot of time left, but, I may have, 20, 30 good years left. So I want to really learn from you and have you be my teacher in that path. So help me put that together for our listeners, our viewers.
Well, it had a lot to do with my healing journey. I had been through a lot in my early teens and really my childhood as well. And, it was something that I always, of course, came back to. And it was just so healing for me that it wasn't, we usually, uh, the masks, we're always putting on all these masks. And if you think about it, doing like fitness stuff is similar to that too, where you're just keep pushing and pushing past. But the one thing that doesn't do that, it's sitting with the uncomfortable moments. It's sitting in those stillness, the silence, and it's doing that inner work, and it's, when I went to Costa Rica, that was a lot of things that I experienced out there is that ecstatic breath work, that ecstatic dance, we did a lot of deep-rooted exercises that faced our shadows and really making peace with those beautiful aspects of ourselves instead of, burying those aspects or making peace with those aspects. And so after I came back from Costa Rica, I knew that that was the whole thing that I wanted to bring. I wanted to help, what had happened to me and, um, and what I experienced through the healing of those little elements of yoga. I wanted to bring that and I wanted to share that with people. So when I came back from Costa Rica, that is what I started sharing. I started co-teaching teacher trainings at the studio that I was at, and that was the element that I brought. So I co-led that spiritual aspect of it. And right then too, I knew that I wanted to open up my own healing space at some point in the future that was just strictly based on those healing aspects and incorporating those, soft and subtle yoga. It wasn't the fitness-based yoga, but, the true essence of what yoga is and just, you know, connecting with your body and the essence of that
And I think that
space.
names are meaningful for me. And so why did you choose to name your center Flower of Life? Tell me where that comes from and how that connects to your overall vision for your business. And then I also want to talk about all the services you offer, not only the yoga classes, but also the wellness components that you bring to all in one place.
Yeah. So the flower of life symbol, it represents how it's the seed and how everything connects. And it really actually came to me in a meditation. And as I sat and meditated, I remember I was thinking about all of the names that could possibly be, but I tried not to think about it too much and I just sat and meditated. And the first thing that I saw was a flower of life symbol. And I said, that's it. It's like it just came to me. The source spoke through me, and it was a really beautiful thing. And it has other meaning now because the building itself is actually my grandfather's building. He's been doing the flowers here for over 50 years. And people in downtown St. Charles know this building just by those
Okay.
flowers. And so it matches with that too, because the flowers here, there's so much life to this space. There's ivy on the building. It's a 100-year-old building. It's the same it's actually as old as the Arcana Theater and
Yeah.
Hotel Baker, so it's got that history to it as well. So it all just kind of blends in together, and I just feel like it was something that the source
Yeah.
spoke through
I
me.
can really relate to that, Sarah, because I started my own business in business coaching many, many years ago, and the name of that came to me through meditation as well. The name of that business was Full Circle Coaches, and that the symbolization of full circle moments and overcoming certain things, whatever it is, has been something that I've held on to for many, many years. And so I truly understand how the source comes through and images will can definitely share and direct where you want to go if you ask the right questions and you ponder the right questions, that it can lead you somewhere different. And so, thank you for sharing that story because it reminds me and just resonates with me so much. But, making a decision as a young person at the early start in your life to invest in a business is a big deal. And so, talk about, why the yoga center and why the wellness and all the components that you brought together as almost like a one-stop shopping center for for your mind. And so I do want to talk about all the different things, not only as a person who lives in the community, but also somebody who values that, mind, body, spirit connection. Please share more about that.
Yeah, so we have a healing room as well that we offer Reiki. We offer sound healing, acupuncture, and now we offer restorative massage and Thai massage. So those elements too. It's part of self-care, but it's also energy work. So it's again, it's a form of just receiving, receiving and investing that time in yourself, and we think that's very important. That's something that we value here as a business is, taking that moment for yourself. If that's an hour of movement or breathing or receiving for yourself, again, especially now more than ever, it's just super important to receive that role way of healing. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. And I think that given the mix of as I mentioned to you and before we got on, I love networking and I love introducing people together. And I in my life journey, I've met a herbalist who originally was inspired to do this work by her Scottish grandfather, who was the healer in his Scottish village back a long time ago. And she is a naturalist and a practitioner. And she's a nurse practitioner by training, but she is also does a variety of different things and brings in a lot of holistic components to her business. And she's an amazing woman that has found a way to blend both her training as a nurse and as a practitioner, along with a more holistic approach and alternative medicine in ways that, some parts of her nursing career don't embrace. But she's also seen the wisdom of traditional medicine and being able to bring the best of both worlds to her patients in a way that's very unique. And so I am all about that kind of, traditional medicine and being able to find, and believe it or not, when I was part of the hospital environment in this community, there has always been a yearning for that in this community, really a combination of holistic medicine in addition to Western practices. It's not something that traditional medicine is trained to know how to incorporate. I think there is more of an acceptance of that today than there was 20, 25 years ago when I was working in that environment. But it's something that in the Western suburbs, we've been much slower to enhance here in the community. And so I think that the community is starving for that. And so we have to help them find your wellness center, your yoga and wellness center, because it is something that historically this community has been craving. And so did you start your yoga center first, and did you build out the wellness center as that was able to be added on? Or was your vision and your offerings to this community always yoga plus wellness?
It was a vision. So we did have that vision, but we did start out as a yoga studio. So we ended up putting the addition of our services on probably a year later.
And how long have you been in business in the building you're in now?
2 years. So we officially opened, 2
Oh.
years in January. So we're going on 3 years now. Second on the round.
Okay. And that was right around the end of COVID. So that was also another difficult time to start a business. I'm just so intrigued. I love women business owners in general, but I'm just so intrigued by your time frame in terms of when you wanted to launch it and when you put all the time and effort into it. Was there something special about the timing being in 2023?
It was really, it was the building. So because my grandfather owns the building, they were really looking for somebody to rent the space. They had gutted everything, and they were they were just kind of feeling out who could rent the space. And my grandfather is a very spiritual man, and he had sat me down and was just kind of talking like, have you ever thought of opening your own yoga studio? And of course, I was somewhere else at the time, and I'm like, of course I have. Like, that's always been like a vision of mine, but it was like, it could not be in the most, I felt like the timing was divine. It was a divine timing, but I was like, it was like either yes or no. And at that time, I'm like, well, if the space is here now, this is my time. So I decided to do it. And it was the scariest thing I've ever done, but
Well, I think the fact that you have family support in that and sort of a guiding hand, I think is so beautiful and so helpful to take that leap, because timing is divine for sure. And I think that it's important that, I have followed the principle. It's a Buddhist principle that when the student is ready, the teacher will arrive. And so it almost feels like that also happened. Things came together, but your grandfather, who is a spiritual man, also took you under his wing and sort of made that vision, gave it a path forward, which I think in itself is the universe, sort of green lighting this project and sort of saying, hey, here's the space, here's someone who's going to help you. You have the wisdom and the skill set to do it. Had you already gone to Costa Rica at that time? Yeah. So it's almost like everything was aligning and the space now became available. And, some of the things that are so hard when you're starting a business in terms of financial security and paying the rent and all of that. Not to say that it was not an issue for you, because I'm sure it was, but, maybe some of that stuff was lightened your load a little bit, because it's also important. Now, what I've also realized, and you and I talked about this before, screen time was sort of like, I had gone to a salt cave and wanted to experience that in the community. And something I felt really good about, was now ending because that hadn't been successful. So what I was alerted to at that time was the cost of doing things, because everything, on one hand, wellness can be a massage table that you can take anywhere you want, but there's also these different devices. Like if you did hot yoga, you would need to have the heating unit to do that. And there's very specific things. I've done hot yoga a couple times. I cannot say it's my favorite just because it's so hot. And there's certain concerns I have about it. But what I'm trying to get at is the cost component to the different parts of the wellness journey. And so that, I think, is difficult as a young business owner to be able to, I think adding on is a smart way to do that. And so what was the first thing you started in your wellness center, and what is sort of the vision for the future steps that you see happening?
Yeah, the first things that we ended up doing, or we started doing, is Reiki. We had some Reiki practitioners that were also yoga instructors here, and that's kind of what helped it too, is
Yeah.
our yoga teachers. So the yoga teachers that we had, they also did like private sound healings and Reiki, and so that's when we kind of decided to open the room, and so our yoga teachers were doing those as well. And what we see for ourselves down the line is actually expanding the space, expanding the yoga studio, and also maybe, having some extra rooms where we can do some more massage and actually have like separate rooms. We are actually in the process of opening another room right now where we're going to be offering vibrational sound therapy. We have a vibrational sound bed.
Yeah.
So just add on
Uh-huh.
to Reiki and massage and Thai massage, and maybe possibly doing the salt. So we do have those visions for ourselves, and red light therapy. That's another one too. So we're kind of like looking into
Yeah.
those things, and we have that vision as well.
Well, I mean, I think that part of it is to, um, you know, uh, just from a business coach standpoint, there's definitely that part of, growing to meet where it's going instead of, thinking big and waiting for people to come. There are two different strategies when it comes to business, of course. But I think that it's important to see, because I think part of the difficulty with wellness too is that there are so many hot things that happen all like it's constantly moving. And I think part of the difficulty, I think, with wellness at the core level that you're talking about, and I hope your business is about, and what I have discovered that is most meaningful to me, is there is a core practice that's really important. And when you veer away from the core portion of that, things get, I mean, I've done that for the 25 years I've practiced yoga and meditation. It's sort of like you get sidetracked into one thing, and then you find that, what's necessarily trendy isn't necessarily what is going to keep you doing the core practice. And then you have to come back to that core practice. And so I've spent the last probably 5 to 7 years working on my core practice and incorporating these nice to haves as an adjunct to those different practices, but really have found for myself anyway. And, it's not one size fits all. Everybody has to find their path themselves. But for me, what keeps me grounded is that yoga and meditation. And I like to try new things, but I think I have found that I always come back to what grounds me, which is the yoga practice. And that's not easy for me to say, because I love new things and I love trying different things. But I have found that what is successful for me has some key, it's like a recipe for my own success that I have spent, 29 years now trying to hone. And it's been a trial and error kind of a situation. But I do love that there are these new facets that get brought into it, because I think the hardest part about the wellness journey for anybody is finding what works for them, whether it's their schedule, whether it's their family dynamics, whether it's their partner, whether it's, and now because of technology, we have the access to all of that stuff, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee success. For some people, leaving their home and going to a studio is part of the success formula. And so it's important to find that hook that gets you into wellness. And I think it can be done in a million different ways. And you just have to find the way that you do it. What do you think makes your space sacred? I think I think that's really important for me, is finding a space that talks to me, that speaks to me, whether it's the space alone, whether it's the classes they offer, whether it's just the universe speaking to me in that space. I've not been to your studio, I'm regretting to say, but tell me for you, what kind of an experience are you making it for the people that walk through your doors?
It's really like a home, and that this is what it is here. It's just the essence of the space. It's the people, it's the community, it's the feeling of family. It's more than just a community, but it's a feeling of family when you walk in, and how people just connect with each other, and the yoga teachers and all the offerings and how they theme their classes and hold space of silence. And it's really just a beautiful, beautiful dynamic. And it goes along with, too, the environmental on the outside as well, just bringing all those elements in.
Yes. And so I'm a huge gardener, so I'm really tempted to drive by your studio, not only to walk in the door, but to look at your gardens, your grandfather's gardens, because those of us who garden and work with our hands in the dirt have a different experience of nature and spirituality. So for me, it's all of those different things that come together. I definitely want to give you the opportunity to share your website and how people can find you online and all the different social media platforms. So please, Sara, tell my viewers how they can find you.
Our website is floweroflifeyogacenter.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. So you'll find us Flower of Life Yoga Center either on Instagram or Facebook as well. So.
Okay, great. And is your studio open how many days a week? Do you focus more during the week, during the evenings or weekends, or all of the above?
All of the above, really. We're open 7 days a week, so Monday through Sunday. Mostly our events in the evening are hosted on the weekends, so Saturdays and Sundays. Again, we post everything online, so follow us on social media, on Instagram, and you'll find where our events are. And it's all on the website as well. So
great. And can I give you an idea, which I really miss? There was a studio in one of the Tri-Cities that had probably like a 6-hour yoga and meditation retreat. And it was the best thing I did. Unfortunately, it is no longer in business. And I have been looking for not an overnight retreat, not, a weekend retreat, but like just 6 hours of a place. And what they had structured it in was all the different forms of meditation and yoga. And so we did a walking meditation, we did a sound meditation, we did all of those different, modalities. And so it exposed people to all the different things they can do, because there is so many, like vibrational as well. And so it was a beautiful way for me to learn about it, but also to carve out that time in a chunk of time that was a commitment, but not, it wasn't something that I had to leave my family to do. And it was in the community. And I suggested to a lot of yoga people, just because I think it's something that's missing in the community. And if that's something that I could help be a part of, I would love to be able to do that and help create that vision for that, because I do think it's something that we as women need to do with self-care and to be able to commit time for ourselves. And it's enough time that gives us the opportunity to go inward, but not so much time that we have to assemble a group of babysitters and people like that to help cover our family commitments. And so anyway, I throw that out there into the universe, hoping that somebody will run with it. But any final things you might have to share with us before we close out this session?
I don't think so. I appreciate.
Okay,
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, no, thank you so much, Sara. I'm so interested now to come out and see your space and take a class and look at the flowers and everything, maybe meet your grandfather at some point. because we seem to have some commonalities. But yeah, that's what I love about this medium is the opportunity to interact with people that I would not have met necessarily on my own journey, and to be able to find the things that we can get united around, and to help bring more people into this space is so important. I love your passion for yoga. I'm so jealous that you discovered it at such a young age, and that you'll be able to be a practitioner of it forever in your life in one way or another. And so I thank you for taking the time to come on to sort of my passion project, which is sort of into the world of podcasting, and sharing you with our community and the larger world out there. So thank you, Sarah, for your time
Thanks so
today.
much for having me.